Welcome to the BNB Investing podcast for real estate investors. Fix and flippers and realtors exploring investment options with Airbnbs and short-term rentals through acquisition, leasing, or management to generate consistent monthly revenue. Join us for a chat with experienced and successful short-term rental investors to hear their story of how they got started and created wealth by building scalable businesses. We also explore various service providers and lenders that help make our businesses more efficient and maximize revenue in this awesome sharing economy. Welcome your host, Rich Munroe.
Hey everyone, Rich Munroe here with BNB Investing Group. Thanks for jumping on this week. As usual, BNB Investing Group kind of helps short-term rental investors navigate the short-term rental world, look at different strategy options, whether you're trying to buy properties, lease them, or manage them. And so we usually like to look at different niches and different categories. And I had the pleasure of last month staying in one of Mel's properties up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and invited her to come on today to kind of talk about her business, her and her partner that has a pretty cool focus on tiny homes. So Mel, thanks so much for jumping on. Really appreciate you taking the time today. Those of you that are jumping on, throw a quick yes in the comments if you can hear me okay. And we're going to save some time for some questions towards the end as well. So Mel, thanks so much for jumping on. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Rich. So my name is Mel Roy. I am a realtor by day, and then my business partner, Rick, and I own STAY LLC, which is a renovation, remodel, property management company after we've started digging into the Airbnb world. I actually got into the Airbnb world accidentally, which seems to be how most people get into the Airbnb world, at least back in the day. This was about 8 years ago. I had a shed in the back of my property when I first purchased it. And unfortunately, I was going through a divorce. And I thought, there's not a better idea than to just renovate the inside of the shed so that I don't have to be far away from my kids. So instead of having to go buy another property and split custody, I thought, might as well renovate this shed. And so I renovated the shed 16 by 20, I would say, 16 by somewhere around there, 16 by 20. And it's somewhat of like a tiny house. So I just updated it. Ended up never living in it, but my partner at that point moved out of the house. But then a friend was like, "Why don't you just put it up on Airbnb? It looks great." I was like, "Oh, I've never been in that game. I don't know how that goes." I put it up on Airbnb, and surprisingly, the income that started coming in from just renting out the shed in my backyard was paying my mortgage. So I was like, "I'm onto something." Then fast forward a few years, and I was able to get the privilege of purchasing the property across the street from mine solely because of the land that it had in the back. So the plan there was that I was going to just fix up the house, get a long-term tenant into the house with the understanding that I was going to build a tiny house in the backyard. And I was going to get to do it from ground up so I could design the full structure, unlike the one in my backyard. And so I built it from ground up, and I ended up putting that on Airbnb, and it was like double the amount as what I was getting for my property. So
very nice.
For me, it was like, this is just a no-brainer. So being in real estate, anytime I were to find a property that has a little bit of land for somebody, and what I mean by a little bit of land, it could be like a quarter of an acre here in Charlotte. I'm always like, you want to live for free? Let me build you a tiny house, put it on Airbnb. Either you can manage it or I can manage it for you. And basically it pays your mortgage plus some. So that's just kind of how we...
So tell me a little bit about the shed. So that's a tiny space. What all did you have? Do you still have that on your Airbnb as a shed now too?
Yeah,
Okay.
I still have it on Airbnb. Yeah. So obviously it's like now having built other ones, that was my first baby. And so like, I don't even really show that one anymore because all the others are so much better than that one, but it still holds a special place in my heart because it was the first one I've ever done. It's just a barn style shed. And I put some fresh windows on it, put a nice door on it, painted it, of course, insulation, drywall. It already had electrical to it. Added some plumbing, and then so it has a full bathroom, a little kitchenette. There's no stove or anything, but there's a plug-in one burner. It's got a couch, TV, and then it's got a loft up top, which is where the queen bed is. And that's kind of like the
So
way
is that
that
one of
set up.
yeah, is that one of the listings that you sent me for us to take a look at or no?
Yep. So that's the third one on your tabs, I believe. It should be Embrace Tiny Living. Yep. That's the first one I did
This
right
guy
there.
here?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I
Yeah.
mean, you see,
So that
I've got 332 reviews. I mean, I've had this up there for a long time.
oh wow, you sure have, and you're 4.89 5 stars. That's awesome. Very cool. So let's see. Let's take a look at
Yeah.
this thing. So definitely very cool. Good use of the space.
I like to stick to very minimal furniture, especially in the tiny space. You don't want to clutter up the space that is available.
Right. And so you got kind of is that a sleeper sofa?
That's just a little couch there. There's
Little
just
couch?
a 2-person. So the bed is up top. So that's just a little couch for TV. See a little kitchenette on
then
that side.
little
That bump out
kitchenette?
is the bathroom.
Oh wow. So you had the bathroom in there too. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome. For your first go around, I mean that's pretty nice put together. It looks really
Well, thank
nice.
you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned a lot after the first one, right? So, you do the second one, and you know where to not put the HVAC unit, or where to make sure to put it,
Yeah.
little things you learn after you do the first one.
Very cool. So this is kind of it's like on a platform deck, or is it just
So
it's
that's
just mount? Yeah.
so straight cinder blocks on the ground, and then it's got the building right on top of that.
Got it. Very cool. No, that's awesome. And so how did you work it out for the plumbing? For the
Yeah,
plumbing
so
connection?
So I hook everything up to the main house. And so for the plumbing specifically, I use a grinder pump. So if it's just where you see that outdoor electrical outlet right there on the side of the shed, right underneath,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the grinder pump is. So all the sewage goes into that grinder pump, and then it shoots it into my crawl space plumbing, and then it shoots straight out into the city.
Very cool. And what's the nightly rate on this?
So it depends. It varies whether it's a weekday, weekend, but it could go anywhere from about $79 a night up to about $125 on the weekend. So it's pretty affordable. And I definitely brought the price down once I built the second one, which is across the street, because that one's just much nicer, much more space. I've got an outdoor shower on that one, so like people really like the outdoor shower. And I've got a screened porch, so it's kind of like more hangout space, and it's like deeper into a property, not so much in the backyard. So it like overlooks the bamboo forest. It's like really beautiful back there.
Very cool. And so what was your cost to get all that set up, from start to finish?
So this one with the structure already being there, that's a huge expense that I didn't have to spend on, right? I had to run the power was already there as well. So that was another huge saving. So the only thing I had to do was plumbing back there, and then insulation, drywall, flooring, bumping out of the bathroom and everything like that. And then of course the furnishings and all that, which again, I like to reuse a lot. So I go to the places like Habitat for Humanity or thrift stores to find furnishings that I can use. And I did all that work myself on that one. So I definitely saved a lot of money on labor. But that one about $15,000 all in. I was in on that one.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And it was at the beginning, it was bringing in about, I would say about $2,000 a month, and my mortgage is $1,300.
Nice.
And so then when I built the one across the street, this one obviously slowed down a bit, but it's still bringing in on average about $1,200 to $1,500 a month, which still mostly covers my mortgage.
No, that's great. Now the one across the street, is that one of the links you gave me to?
Yeah, that should be the first one.
No?
You should see Tiny 2.0.
All right, let me pull that one up. We'll take a quick look. And so you went from that one to the one across the street.
Yeah.
And then how long did it take you to set the one up across the street?
So the one up across the street, we did it in about, I would say probably like 3 months. So it was pretty quickly built up. It was from ground up, definitely higher end. The structure itself is only 12 by 12. So the structure is actually smaller. But I used the outdoor space a bit more. I did the screened in porch on one side, and then I did the outdoor shower, which is a double shower head outdoor shower, which a lot of couples really, really love. And when I first did it, I was like, no one's gonna shower in this outdoor shower in the winter. I mean, in Charlotte, it doesn't get too cold, but it still gets like 40 degrees sometimes. But no, one of the biggest compliments that we get on all of our reviews is that outdoor shower.
Very cool. So this is the guy here, right? That was across the street.
Yep. This is it.
Okay. All right, cool. So
very similar style wood. A lot of minimal white wood plants.
And you stick with your floor plan of the kind of the loft area upstairs.
Yep.
Very cool. So in the kitchen, you've got a toaster oven. Do you have a fridge as well?
Yeah, it's a little mini fridge right underneath the countertop. See, you can't really see a little white fridge right there.
Right, I got you. Okay. And then you go up those stairs.
Top one plug-in cook burner as well, which most people aren't coming to a tiny house to cook.
Right. Yeah, they're going to be eating out, but it's good that you have the toaster oven there.
Yeah.
All right, so this cool. And then you got
and we thought we were going to get that this one actually doesn't have a TV. We thought we were going to get a lot of complaints about no TV. We kind of wanted to make it a little bit of like an oasis, like kind of come out here, disconnect. Don't just lounge on TV, just have a conversation. But
very cool.
There was probably one person in the last 2 years that has ever said anything about us not having a TV.
Oh, that's great. And you got the shower room off to the side.
Yeah. So it's outdoors. Cool. It's definitely outdoors. We have a clear plastic roofing, so you're underneath the trees, so you really get a sense of nature while you're in that shower. And it gets real hot. The water gets real hot, so that's super helpful during the winter.
Nice. Very cool. And so this one took how long to get up and running?
This one took about 3 months. I would say 3 to 4 months we had this one up and running. And this one cost a bit more, obviously. All in, we were probably closer to $40,000.
And what's your average monthly gross?
Yeah, so this one with Airbnb, on average, I'd say we probably bring in about $3,500 a month with this one.
Nice.
It's wild to me. The house in the front is a 3-bedroom, 1.5, 1,300 square foot house that I could, maybe get $2,800 a month on month to month, and then this little shed in the backyard brings in just under $4,000.
Oh, that's great. Now, so what is the average occupancy?
Yeah, so this one's got, I would say, probably around 70 to 80% occupancy. Of course, January and February are our slowest months, so we're way down, closer to like 50% on January, February. But on average, we're at about 75% occupancy.
Very nice. And these outdoor spaces are killer too.
Yeah, that one made a huge difference for this one. Like, I enjoy just hanging out on that outdoor space.
Nice. Very cool. And so let's continue with our order. So you did the one across the street. Then how'd you expand from there?
Yeah. From there, Rick, which is my business partner, kind of saw what we were doing there. And he was like, look, man, I think I need to get one of these in my backyard. So we ended up building one for him in his backyard. And that's the second link, I think, that you've got there. Kind of similar layout. He brought in a lot of his styles into this one, a lot more color. I'm not a colors person. I try to keep everything plain, but the colors really work for him. I mean, he's got amazing reviews. He was able to do a lot more interior space with his because he doesn't have a bathroom in his. So he actually has an apartment behind the house. So this tiny house actually has access to the bathroom from that apartment. So he didn't have to use any actual 12 by 12 square footage or lose any 12 by 12 square footage with a bathroom. So we jumped over to his next.
And so now let me pull his up. Okay, that one's it there. Right. And so I know this one well because this is the one I actually stayed in.
Yep.
And it was great. It was perfect. I was there for a conference that I was speaking at in Charlotte with a real estate investment group. And I was only there for one night. And it was perfect. You would think that the bathroom not being in there would be a big deal, but actually, it might be a little different for ladies. But for me, it wasn't really that big of a deal. There's a little path you have to walk on to get to the main building. right?
And most people don't necessarily get bothered by the bathroom not being right inside there. And it's very clear in the description of course, that the bathroom is not inside the space.
Yeah. So you don't typically have anyone push back on that.
No, not really.
No, and so I want to touch on the significance of this, guys. So basically, by doing this, Rick now has a property that has two income producers in the back of his house. This one being the smaller one, and the other one being. Did you send me the link for the other one too, or no?
No, I actually don't have that link. I can pull it up if you need.
Yeah, I'll pull that one up after we look at this one. But
Okay.
I wanted to kind of let everybody know the opportunity here, because it was pretty smart what you guys did, because essentially in most areas, including Charlotte, you're only allowed to put one what they call accessory dwelling unit, which is kind of what is the legal term for a tiny home. And they only allow you to do the plumbing and the bathroom and everything for that one unit. And so to get around that, they have two tiny homes. One that they call the main building, which is a little bit bigger. It's a 2-bedroom than the tiny home I stayed in. And they have the back part of that building that has the bathroom for the tiny home. And so essentially they have two separate structures that they're running two different listings and generating, separate income. And they're basically calling the tiny home a shed from a legal perspective, so that it doesn't have to be qualified as an ADU. So I thought that was great what you guys did there. Because that can obviously be replicated.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's certain restrictions. Like, for example, a lot of our tiny houses are not bigger than 12 by 12. And the reason for that is because you have to pull a structural permit in Mecklenburg County if any of your structures are over 12 by 12. So if you stay within 12 by 12 or less, then you don't have to pull a structural permit. Of course, you still have to pull electrical permit and plumbing permit and all that. But that's a huge hurdle that you don't have to jump over if you stay within that parameter.
Makes sense. So I'm just going to send the other link to myself here, so we can look at that one next. So let's finish looking at the tiny home, the one I stayed in. And so walk us through the numbers on this one in terms of what it took to get it up, set up.
Yeah. This one, very similarly to my second one, it took somewhere around 35 to 40 to get it all set up. And it was pretty quickly. Also, I would say probably around 3 to 4 months to get it up.
And we have your go-to small fridge, your microwave, coffee maker. Now, I thought it was pretty interesting with the sink because you don't have it hooked up to plumbing. So walk us through what you guys did there.
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to what you would do in an RV. So they've got the gray water tank and the clean water tank underneath the fridge. Yeah, you can see it in that picture right there.
Yeah.
So the plumbing is connected straight to that, and then he's got this is in the back of his property where he lives, but he's got extra gallons, jugs of the clean water that he can switch out anytime that anybody needs one. So it only allows you to use what's in that tank, and then it empties out into the gray water, and then he can empty that out.
And usually the guests that stay in there doesn't really fool with that part, right? I mean,
No, not at all. They don't ever have to. And then if they are ever running low on water, they could just shoot him a quick message, and he'll be in there, swap it out within a split second, and be right back out of there. And most guests are not in much time, so most times that never even has to happen while they're in there.
It's not like they're going to be washing a bunch of dishes other than a coffee cup or a cup, right? So,
brushing your teeth, probably.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then so the upstairs, again, kind of your MO, the upstairs loft area with the bed. This was a king size bed up there?
It's a queen size bed up there.
Queen size bed. Okay, it looks like a king because of the area it's in, but
it does.
I thought it would be claustrophobic with the ceiling being low like that, but honestly, it wasn't that big of a deal. You got the windows right next to it, which is cool. And so this is the pathway, guys, to the bathroom, right? So this is the tiny home, and then there's a pathway. This door actually has a washer and dryer in there as well, and then the bathroom for let's see, I'll actually show you here. Yeah, so so you basically have to walk through there to get to the bathroom, which is again not a huge deal, especially if you already acknowledge that going into it and you know that.
Right.
And then you got a little hammock back there. And then again, a cool little
Absolutely, he's got
screened in area.
screened in. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, cool. Let's take a look at the main house. Let me see if I can pull that one up. Right, and so this is actually this is also technically a tiny home as well, right?
So he's got his workshop on the right hand side. So he built this out as an apartment. So we don't even consider it a tiny home, even though it is. I would say it's maybe 600 square feet. So it's a big tiny home.
Big tiny home. But the gray area basically is the part that the guest has access to. Then he's got a kind of a garage shop set up on the right hand side, which is separate. And so this is set up as a 2-bedroom.
Yep.
Right. And then so you got your open floor plan living room, combination kitchen. And obviously you got a so I noticed that there wasn't a TV in the tiny house. Again, yeah, there wasn't. And that wasn't really a big deal. That wasn't a big deal for me either. So so it's funny that you're able to do that. I would have expected that it's kind of mandatory to put a TV or something in there. But
I think with the tiny house specifically, it's like most people that are coming to experience the tiny house. And they're really, and most people that are traveling could either be traveling with their laptop, and if they need to watch something, they can pull up their laptop.
Exactly.
They're not in they're not going to be sitting on this massive couch looking at the small screen. They're going to be staying in this small house, probably laying on the bed watching the laptop.
Or like I do, like iPad, right? So
yeah, exactly.
So so this definitely does not have like you said, it doesn't really have a tiny house feel. It's actually got some nice tall ceilings in there.
Yeah,
and it's really just a 2-bedroom apartment essentially, even though you have it as a separate dwelling unit. And so what's the average nightly rate on this guy?
This one, I would say it's on average somewhere around 90 to 100.
Okay. And so is it about the same on the tiny home as well as far as revenue goes?
Yeah. About the same on the tiny home.
Yeah, and you guys probably find this. People actually pay an upcharge just for the experience, right? So they're paying a premium.
Yeah.
And what I've found that's interesting too, I don't know what you guys have seen in your market, but it's the same with the long-term rates, right? So if you do a long-term lease with a tenant for 6 months or 12 months on a tiny house, you're able to command a premium in a lot of cases more than what you would for, like you said, a 2 or 3 bedroom house, which is crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's still the option to revert back to midterm or long term with these things as well. So
of course. Yeah. Of course.
All right, so let's continue on with our story. So you did these in Rick's backyard, which I had the pleasure of meeting your partner Rick too, and he kind of showed me around, which was awesome. And so what was next after this?
Yeah, so I kind of started just really diving deep into kind of like my own investments, kind of seeing how much income Airbnb was able to bring me. Now the house that I own across the street from mine, which is where that second tiny house is behind that one, I never had that one on Airbnb, but in reality, I was like, maybe a single family that we could put on Airbnb just to kind of try it out. It ended up being that I ended up finding this off-market deal in this really hot neighborhood here in Charlotte. And it was a complete gut job. Like it needed to be completely renovated, stripped down to the studs. So I ended up buying that property off market with the intention to building another tiny house in the back because the lot itself was perfect for a tiny house. And so we flipped the house, got it renovated really nicely, furnished it. And we're like, until we build that tiny house in the back, let's just put this on Airbnb just to see what happens. Well, that property started bringing in like $4,500 a month on Airbnb just as a small 700 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And that's, I think it's called minimalist. You'll see it there on the tabs that you've got open there. So that was the next one that came up. And it's got a huge backyard, like very flat, long backyard overlooking the city skyline. So at night, it's really beautiful back there. You see the Charlotte city skyline. So the plan is to eventually get us our next tiny house on the back of this property.
All right. So that's this one here.
That's this one.
Yeah, I love the woodwork you guys did in there. It's nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of our go-to. You do find that, Airbnb can be super saturated here in Charlotte,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of people, sometimes I do some consulting with some clients that are interested in kind of getting into the game, and they always bring that up, right? Like, how do you stand out in this city where there's an Airbnb in every corner? In reality, everybody can do an Airbnb, but not everybody can decorate. And
Right.
so you really look around Airbnb, you'll see some houses that are furnished with like grandma's furniture that has been left in the shed for 50 years. And like
Yeah.
those little things make a huge difference. Like, spend a little bit more and just get some real natural minimal looking furniture, some good furniture. It doesn't have to be expensive. Like, I buy reused furniture all the time. But
Right.
like, that couch is a pull-out couch. That's my go-to couch on every single family that I do. It pulls out to a
Nice.
queen size bed. And
Very
it
cool.
is it's super comfortable, and I can find it all the time on Facebook Marketplace. All the time. It's
Yeah.
from IKEA, so it's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
But a lot of people kind of fill their space with a lot of things as if they need to just fill these empty walls. And I've found that, like, in reality, you don't need to fill the empty walls. Like, give
And
people
you're literally calling this listing minimalist 2 bedroom.
exactly,
I love it.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and your decor, your design is clean and crisp, and
Yeah, and
yeah, that's
honestly,
awesome.
I think that makes a huge difference. I really do, and so, like,
Hmm.
just if you've got to spend a little bit more, and something that I tell everyone is professional photos. Do not take these photos
Yeah,
on your phone. That, spend the $300. It'll change the game for you with Airbnb. Last thing you
definitely,
want is to
totally
see
agree.
somebody standing in the bathroom as they're taking the picture through the bathroom mirror.
Yeah, I mean, it goes beyond saying, when folks are making a decision whether they want to book your property, 90% of their decisioning, obviously they're looking at reviews, but a big chunk
Right.
of their decisioning is on those listing pictures. And so spend the
Absolutely.
$200 or whatever it is to get professional pictures. Totally agree.
Absolutely.
Oh, all right. And so that particular property, you're going to be putting a tiny house behind that one
Yeah.
as well.
The plan is within the next year to, we told ourselves it was like 2 years of like nonstop building. So we said, let's give ourselves a year. We do renovations and remodels for others. So we're currently building a couple tiny houses for other clients right now. But for ourselves, we're just like, let's just hold off for a year, kind of recuperate some funds.
Right. So let's talk about that for a minute. You do this for other investors. And so what markets are you doing this in right now? Is it just North Carolina and Charlotte, or are you expanding from there as well?
Yeah, so we are actually in the process of building somewhat of like a tiny house community in Kings Mountain. So it's in North Carolina, but it's just off the mountainside. So just off Crowder's Mountain, which is like a super attractive nature hike that a lot of people come to North Carolina for. And so we are, fingers crossed, we submitted an offer yesterday. So we're hoping to get this lot and then kind of really quickly start getting some tiny houses built up. All different unique styles, like maybe like an A-frame and then a dome. And, just, we're thinking probably like four to six tiny houses on this lot with some communal areas in the middle and some campground areas, and just to kind of get some more people over to that area in Kings Mountain, which there's not a lot going on in Kings Mountain right now.
How far is that from Charlotte?
Kings Mountain's about 30 to 45 minutes from Charlotte.
Okay.
But they've got, Kings
cool.
Mountain's got a casino that's just opened up. And they've got this huge lithium plant that they're saying is going to make Kings Mountain blow up. So Kings Mountain is kind of like this untouched land right now. So if anybody's looking to invest right now, I'd say this is another thing. Rick and I, one of our properties that we manage on Airbnb is a Kings Mountain property. It's just a small little 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I would say maybe 700 square feet, 800 square feet max. Nothing out of the, not incredibly renovated, just basic little 2-bedroom house. We furnished it, put it on Airbnb, and it is our best producing Airbnb. And when I was asked, will you manage a property in Airbnb in Kings Mountain? I was like, Kings Mountain? Who goes to Kings Mountain? Yeah, well, let me tell you, Kings Mountain right now, it's that property is probably bringing in on average about $4,500 a month.
Oh, wow. That's
And
awesome.
then of course, our management fee comes off of that, but that's a
Yeah,
huge number on this little house in the middle of nowhere.
definitely, definitely. And so you mentioned also you did some kind of retro themed
Yeah, yeah.
properties.
So the next
And
one after
so
that little minimalist house that you saw there, we bought a duplex and a single family that were all in one lot.
is it
And it's
called
in the
is it the Bow House? The Boho House?
no, so that's actually another one of Rick's that he
Okay.
bought. It's just a 3 bedroom that we just have on there on Airbnb, and that also is again really the plan is to eventually get a tiny house behind that one as well. So we're buying these up
Oh,
to
I
get them
yeah.
bringing in some income, and then eventually get a tiny house in the back.
That's a good strategy. I love it. So yeah, I think I found the retro one.
Yeah, so that's actually a
Let's
duplex.
see.
And so we were able to buy this duplex. And again, similarly to the minimalist house, we had to strip it down to the studs, fix it up entirely. Yep. And so we turned one side of the duplex into a 70s unit and one side of the duplex
Love
into
it.
a 90s unit. So we,
Very
this took a
cool.
lot longer than anticipated because we had to really go out and find, 1974 Playboy magazines that are right there in the center console. We've got a 1976 pinball machine. These things that were not easy to come by. We had to really go finding these things. And this is the first time that I've done like a themed out Airbnb. I just kind of wanted to try something out. And
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, look, if it doesn't work out, I'll just paint the walls white, change some furniture, and I'm back to my typical white wood accents. And I know I
No,
can
I
make it
love
work.
it. Yeah,
A
very
lot of
cool.
people come for like birthdays, um, just to kind of do something unique, and they could come and stay for one night. They don't have to book for more than one night, and so a lot of people really like that. We have a VHS player with all the '70s movies. That
Nice.
stove that you see there, I took it out of a property that a woman was getting rid of it for free. It came out of her house and it's from 1974 or something like that.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
it
Perfect.
works. It works. We used it.
Pinball machine.
Yeah,
Very cool.
pinball.
Awesome. Awesome. How long has this one been up?
This one just recently. We just got this up, I
Okay.
believe, right around slow season. So just around December, we got it up. So we kind of like waited out the slow season of January, February. So March was really our first month coming in.
Got it. And now is this a part of the property here too with the deck?
Yep. So that's a shared
Very
backyard.
nice.
So if you see the little house in the back, that's the single family that's also on the same lot. So the
Hmm.
duplex and the single family all share this big backyard. So we built this deck with a large picnic table in hopes that like our guests from the 70s and the 90s will kind of all hang out. And they do actually. Last week we had the 70s and the 90s people comparing their units sitting on
Very
that
cool.
picnic table.
That's awesome. Very cool. So, besides the kind of the tiny home village that you're going to do you have any other projects on the horizon that you're working on?
Yeah. So Stay LLC, our companies, we've got about 2 tiny houses currently being built right now for others here in the Charlotte area. Most of the stuff we're
Hmm.
doing is here in the Charlotte area. Um,
Okay. And it looks like we had a question earlier. When did you start? So I don't know that when you first started talking about your story, when you put your shed in the backyard, when was that?
yeah,
How long ago was that?
that was, I believe, 2017 when that shed was there when I bought the house. So I bought the house in 2017, and that was the immediate plan to get that going in there. And that took me again at that point I was in the middle of going through a divorce. I have 2 kids. They were babies at that point, and I was doing that work myself. So that took me a good 6 to 8 months to get that up and running. When I can on the
Mm.
weekends. Um,
Hmm.
But yeah, it's my baby. My kids like to just go in there and like pretend like they're living in there sometimes.
Very cool. Now, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you via your email address? I can pop that in the comments,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
what's
yeah,
your
yeah. My
preferred?
email address. Yeah, you can leave my phone number as well. Whatever's easiest. You can find me on
Okay.
Instagram. If you like, I can put it. Can I put it on here?
You should be
Uh,
able to. Yeah. No, you can't actually. If you
yeah,
email it to me, I'll put it on there.
yeah. Yeah. I'll shoot you an
Yeah,
email with all that information. Yeah, you can reach me out through
perfect.
Instagram, through Facebook, through email, through phone number, anything that works.
Awesome. Well, this has been super informative, Mel. I really appreciate you taking the time today. I'd love to have you back. So when you guys get those 5 or 6 tiny homes set up on Kings Mountain, we can kind of get a tour of that. And
Definitely, yeah.
yeah, definitely the next time I come to Charlotte, I'll be staying at one of your spots as well. So
You reach out
really
anytime.
appreciate it.
And
All right,
I'd love to
awesome.
listen to your viewers. If anybody is ever coming into Charlotte and wants to come to any of my properties, just have them shoot me a message and say they saw me on this video, and we'll go ahead and give them a discount code.
Perfect, perfect. Love it. Sounds great. Well, thanks again, Mel. Thanks everybody for watching this week. BNB Investing Group. If you're ready to start a scalable short-term rental business and you want to chat with me about that to see if what we do can help and get you started sooner, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook Messenger. But until then, everybody, we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot. Thanks again, Mel. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Thanks for jumping on the BNB Investing podcast this week. Please click on the subscribe and like button below. For more trainings, property tours, and content, you can join my BNB Investing Facebook group by clicking below. If you are ready to grow your short-term rental portfolio and maximize your monthly income, you can click on the link below to schedule a quick strategy call with Rich or someone from his team to see how we can help or point you in the right direction. Stay tuned for our next episode and hope to see you on the BNB Investing Group podcast.